Lawmakers in Nigeria's House of Representatives have condemned the purported launch of national carrier Nigeria Air on the last working day of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Chairman of the House Committee on Aviation, Nolim Naji, declared the launch of this Nigeria Air project a fraud after the major stakeholders in the deal between the federal government and Ethiopian Airlines denied knowledge of the launch.
We want to put on record that the committee and indeed the National Assembly had no role in the purported launch of Nigeria Air or anything related thereof. We as a committee will not accept any attempt by any individual or group of individuals or organization to hide under the project Nigeria Air and siphon our commonwealth. Consequently, the committee hereby resolved to 1. Direct the Federal Ministry of Aviation and its partners in the Nigeria Air project to immediately suspend any operation regarding to Nigeria Air and every other action with respect to Nigeria Air. 2. Urge our new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the president and commander-in-chief, to, as a matter of urgency, constitute a high-level presidential committee to undertake a holistic review of the processes of the whole Nigeria Air project and advise the government on the way forward. 3. Ensure that all individuals or groups or organizations involved in the controversial Nigeria Air takeoff are brought to book, prosecuted and sanctioned.
Earlier on, the managing director of Nigeria Air, Dapo Olumide, told the Senate that the aircraft that came into the country was only to show to Nigerians how the delivery of the Nigerian Air project would look like on a real aircraft. Olumide made his comments before the Senate Committee on Aviation.
Few days after the much anticipated Nigerian Air, a proposed national carrier, touched down at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja, the airline, especially the manner it arrived in the country, has remained a matter of serious controversy. The bad publicity prompted the Senate, through its Committee on Aviation, to grill those directly involved in the project, accusing the immediate past Minister Hadi Sirika, who was absent on the day, of completely shutting them out of the project.
The non-transparent manner in which the Nigeria Air project was awarded to Ethiopian Airlines at the detriment of Airlines Operators of Nigeria, AON, which has given way to surrendering our sovereign wealth to foreigners as claimed by the airline operators in Nigeria in one of their petitions to the committee.
The Nigerian Air was flown into the country wearing an Ethiopian registration number, fueling suspicion in many quarters, including that of the Senate. When asked about the whereabouts of the aircraft, the interim managing director of Nigerian Air, Dapo Olamide, broke the ice when he told lawmakers that what they saw was an Ethiopian chartered flight to show Nigerians and shareholders what the logo of Nigerian Air looks like on a real aircraft.
So when this aircraft came in on a charter flight, everybody said, "We have launched Nigeria Air." And I thought this was very interesting because there are learned people in the aviation industry who could have countered that when social media came out, but they chose not to. But that's fine, I'm here to explain. It was just a charter flight.
Olumide, who was brought in last February to help secure air operating license for Nigerian Air, said the hired aircraft had since returned to Ethiopia and that the proposed national carrier is yet to be licensed.
But the problem is that when you change what we call post holders, you're a post holder, for example, all of you are post holders on the committee. Post holders in aviation is a technical term for director of maintenance, chief pilot, all those type of things. When you change them and replace them completely, you have to go back to phase 1 to interview them. They have to be interviewed to be compliant and acceptable to the authorities.
The Senate panel was not particularly satisfied with his explanation, wondering why the ex-Royal minister had to rush the process and create the impression the Nigerian Air was up and running. The minister was quoted to have said 4 more aircraft would follow.
Why will you, for whatever reason, having an interim MD, be in a hurry to unveil a national carrier on the last day of your administration? Why?
As it is today, you are not starting well. You have image problem from day one. But, what you did was, we should come and see, you know. But being as that is me, I want to know that in Nigeria, this kind of strategy doesn't really work.
The logo and name of Nigerian Air was unveiled at Farnborough Air Show in the United Kingdom 5 years ago. But the project has been a matter of serious controversy, a situation the Ninth Senate, in a last-ditch effort, is hoping to resolve. Omo Bazwai, Arise News.
The immediate past Minister of Aviation and a man whose name became almost synonymous with the Nigeria Air project, Hadi Sirika, joins us now. Good to see you, Captain Hadi Sirika. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ruben. My name is Hadi Sirika.
Well, Captain Hadi Sirika, you must have listened to the videos that we played to introduce this conversation. And there are many Nigerians, not just Honorable Nolim Naji, the chair of the Aviation Committee in the House of Reps, but also many other Nigerians who are calling for your arrest and who are saying that you must be investigated. And what they are saying is that why the need for Nigeria Air? We had Air Nigeria before, it failed. And the assumption, the allegation is that what you have been able to impose on Nigerians is a personal project rather than a project designed in national interest.
Well, thank you very much, Ruben and the viewers. I don't think that I'm here to discuss the desirability of having a national carrier for the size of the Nigerian economy, its population, and being at the center of Africa. No. I am here because I once been a public servant who has taken decision on behalf of the people, and is only morally right that there are accusations of fraud, of corruption, of secrecy, and so on, are not being done in the right manner, and so on. For me to come and explain to the public what has happened, to allay their fears, to explain issues, because I'm accountable for my actions. So discussing desirability or not, I think we've gone past that stage. That can be another day. I think respectfully, perhaps, is to ask me all of those questions like the 85 billion that have been wasted, like the aircraft that came and flew out, and so on. I think that these are the questions that Nigeria wants to know. The Farnborough issue, the post holders, who are the owners, whether there is secrecy in the whole thing, is shrouded by secrecy, whether it is a fraud according to Nolim. I think, Dr. Abati, I'd like to use the opportunity because I know I have limited time, but let me answer the German questions that I'm to be faced by public. I think that's what it should be.
Well, I started with that question because many Nigerians, they are asking, is this a flag carrier or is it a chartered flight, being carried by, Ethiopian Airlines? But the basic question is, how is the unveiling of May 29th?
So Nigeria...
Okay, please go ahead.
So Nigeria Air, so Nigeria Air is a company known to Nigeria law called Nigeria Air Limited, with shareholders on the company. So it's not going to be a charter company, it's going to be a company like every other company. And the structure of that company is such that there is 5% for the federal government, held in trust by Ministry of Finance Incorporated. Then there is 49% strategic equity partner, which is Ethiopian in this case. There's also 31% by MRS and 15% by SACOL. This is the structure of the airline. And so it's a company known to law, like Max Air is known to law, like Air Peace is known to law, or IBOM.
Okay, it's good that you've talked about the shareholders in Nigeria Air, and you've defined the percentages. But one of the companies you mentioned, SACOL, complained that they were not even invited to the unveiling. I would like to know, how was the unveiling on May 29 different from the unveiling in Farnborough? What is the difference?
Right. So there are two different phases. Remember, at the beginning of this exercise, the federal government of Nigeria had a business plan. And that business plan is such that there is going to be viability gap funding of $350 million by the government of Nigeria through the CBN, which in that case, it will be owned by the company but repaid back to Nigeria. At that time, we did not have the name, the color, the logo of this airline. So we begin a campaign, social media campaign, which is on record, where 400,000 people participated in the campaign to create the name, the logo, the color, and the livery of the airline. And Farnborough, being an air show where the entire world came to, where we will be needing aircraft either from Boeing or from Airbus, and they're all there. So we would go there and discuss with them and pick the best deal for the airline at that time when the government was driving it. So we thought that in that place, after negotiating with also would-be investors, like a roadshow, if you like. So if we will have the opportunity to discuss with them, one-stop shop, discuss with OEM, that is manufacturers of aircraft, either Boeing or Airbus or anybody, and also investors or would-be partners like Qatar, like Ethiopian, like Lufthansa, which we all met with them at that time. So to use the opportunity, seize the opportunity at that time, the product of the campaign by 400,000 people, we will now unveil it for the world to see, hey, we are coming. This is what is going to come. At that time, government is driving it. But thereafter, the business changed. The business, OBC, outline business case changed. And now they have a partners that have owners. So the unveiling in Abuja, this was done by government. And then the purpose of going to Farnborough is not just to unveil, but take advantage of it. But it's to discuss with OEMs, discuss would-be partners, and do a roadshow. But coming back home now, when Nigeria Air had its own shareholders, the bid was done, the bid was won by some people, in their marketing strategy, decided to unveil this aircraft, this airline, to come into Nigeria and showcase what it would be, pending when the AOC has been completed and they begin to fly. So the strategy that they did, marketing, is their own. It's for the owners. It's for Ethiopia Airline, Emirates, ET, and the Mofi, whoever they are. And the question as to Sako, that they have not been invited for the unveiling, I wouldn't be the one to answer. Their own partners should answer. And I think it was very clear on the day I was invited, and I went there. And I went around the aircraft, I saw it, I inspected it, I made statements there. And they asked me that, so when do you think that this aircraft will fly? And I said to them, look, it will fly as soon as the OC is issued. And that, okay, what if the government that is new now decide not to continue? I said, well, if they decide not to continue, they're only 5% of the company, because they have only 5%. Okay. So 95% will continue, because it's an airline known to Nigerian law. So if Sako will decide not to do, they're only 15%. The remaining 85% will continue. If Emirates decide not to continue, the rest will continue. So I think it's very clear.
Okay,
anybody, because it's a partnership owned by them.
But Captain Sirika, those shareholders that you have mentioned, how much have they paid as equity?
Please address me as Senator Hadi or Hadi.
Oh, okay. You prefer Senator Hadi Sirika. Okay. How much have those shareholders paid as equity into Nigerian Air? Or they didn't pay anything? They're just shareholders on paper.
So, no. So the business plan had $200 million as a capital. They will pay equal to the shareholding they are doing. I know currently that they are signing the shareholders agreement. Once they finish the documentation of the shareholders agreement and they sign, then they pay. Of course, they cannot take a shareholding on paper, and no one does that. Everybody will have to pay, except federal government 5% will be in kind for the services, for rentals, etc. So the 5% of government is all that is doing. And remember, federal government has been spending money on this project. So all of its services and what they have been doing will be quantified. If it is equal to 5%, they take 5%. If it is more, they get the refund. If it is less, the services will be quantified and make up to 5%.
Okay.
So monies have been spent by government, yes. Services have been given, yes. Buildings have been given, yes.
Okay, Senator, you say the federal government has been spending money. How much has been spent so far? Because many Nigerians are concerned. They say, oh, they have spent our money, and we don't have an explanation. Is it 130 billion naira, as some people are alleging, or 85 billion naira? How much has been spent so far? Because
okay, so,
this is about our money,
okay,
our
so,
money.
Okay, so in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, all of the monies voted for national carrier was 5 billion, voted and budgeted for. But all that was released is in the neighborhood of about 3 billion, not 85 billion. And that 3 billion has not been expended, all of it, as at the time I left office. And what has been done with that money is nothing but transaction advisory services, the AOC processes, salaries, consultancy services, and the office in Abuja. No contract was given by Hadi Sirika or the administration at the time. These are the things that were used for the money. And there is Freedom of Information Act. People can apply and get all the records, what the money has been used for. That is number one. Number two, it's in the imagination of Roland Iyayi in the National Assembly that he said 85 billion was budgeted and spent. And when they asked him, he said MBS. Now, I think MBS should question why is the source. Is it true that they have it on their records, MBS, that the money has been spent? So I told you now the total amount of money from 2016 to 2023 is only 5 billion. Not all was released. Only about 3 billion that was released. And at the time I left, all of it has not been utilized. And I told you what the money was for. Transaction advisory services, AOC processes, salaries, consultancies, and the office in Abuja. So the 85 billion is in the head of the person who said it.
Okay. You mentioned, you referred earlier to AOC, and that's one of the things that Dr. Olumide brought up when he was testifying before the House Aviation Committee. And he said that the first stage of the AOC has not even been concluded. What exactly is the truth?
Well, I think what he meant at that time, because he was caught halfway, what he meant at that time is that, look, the post holders, which is the key personnel of the airline, their contract expired 31st of May. And NCA is saying, look, the contract of the people to run this airline has expired. So change them. If they had changed them, all of them, then they go back to stage one. But they have not changed them. They only extended their contract. So since they extended their contract, they have already gone to NCA, been interviewed. So they have passed. As far as that is concerned, they have passed that level already. Because immediately the ministry received it, and Nigeria received it, they reappointed the same people. So they don't need to go through any diligence because they're the same people. So it's gone past stage one. It's my belief that all of the documentation, including 23 set of manuals, have been sent to, as the time Welim has been sent to NCAA. And so the term expired, but they were renewed, the same people. So you're not going back to stage one, you're continuing.
Well, one of the things that came up in that conversation between Olumide and the committee was that the flight that we saw, the aircraft that we saw on May 29th was a chartered aircraft. Now, how much was paid for that chartered aircraft, and who chartered the aircraft? And we were told that the aircraft took some passengers away from Nigeria, what they called, referred to as returned passengers. Now, who took, the benefit for that? Ethiopian Airlines or Nigeria Air?
Well, so very quickly, first and foremost, the AOC owned by Ethiopian Airlines is known to Nigerian laws and the NCAA. They are permitted to come in as either scheduled passenger, charter, or cargo. Now they have to come, if they are coming, under one of the three. So they came on charter. Charter that don't mean that anybody paid for anything. To answer your question, government did not pay a dime for that to come in. That is number one. Number two, there are no revenue passengers going out. That would have been totally against the law and would have been allowed. And like I said, also is their own marketing strategy as partners, equity partners, that they came to do this unveiling on a special allowance which is called charter. Charter does not mean that they paid for it. If there's anybody who would have paid for it, it would have been the Ethiopian Airlines, not Nigerian government at all. No penny is paid. I hear figures like 139 billion was used to pen the aircraft and bring it in. How ridiculous can that be? I think, Dr. Ruben, people should get a bit more serious. 139 billion can buy 5 brand new 737s. So how will we pay that to pen an aircraft and bring it in just for the show? So there is no iota of truth, no penny is paid, and people should invoke the Freedom of Information Act in place to ask for the records and to ask for the figures and to ask for explanation and to be given to them, I believe, because that's what we've been doing while we're in government.
Okay, but domestic airline operators have also expressed concern. They went to court, and part of the argument is that the Federal High Court in Abuja, I think it was the Court of Justice Ambrose Louis Alagua, who then said that, look, the unveiling of Nigeria Air should not go ahead. So it will look like what was done on May 29 was a violation of a subsisting court order. Are we aware?
Well, Dr. Ruben, what I remember, I am very aware of that. But what I am aware of also is that I remember there was a court order and there was a motion to vacate that court order immediately by our councils. But I am not court. I cannot determine here on TV whether there is contempt of court or none. I think I leave that one to the courts. But certainly there was a motion in place to vacate that order.
Okay, one of the concerns of the domestic airline...
And again...
Please go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
One of the concerns of the domestic airline operators also is that Ethiopian Airlines has been given an advantage. First, to initially operate within the domestic routes. 2, to enjoy tax holidays for 15 years. And that the priority of the Ministry of Aviation under your watch should have been to provide vast opportunities in terms of frequency of flights from Nigeria to other parts of the world, rather than giving advantage to a foreign airline to come and dominate the domestic routes in Nigeria.
Well, so allowing for there is a company called Nigeria Air with shareholding. Just like Air Peace has announced that they have acquired 70% of Antigua and Barbuda National Airline. It's the same way they are acquiring 70%. It's the same way that Ethiopian are acquiring 49%. And this Nigerian Air is known to Nigerian laws. Once it starts operation, it will be flying. Nobody stops Max Air or Air Peace or Ibom to go and buy shares in Lufthansa, or to invite Lufthansa to buy 49% of their own. So whether they should do operations locally, yes, they should, because they are a Nigerian company. And the Nigerian law allows you to come and own 100% of business. 100% of a business in Nigeria as a foreigner. There's nothing wrong with that. Regarding tax holiday, in the initial outline business case, there was allowance that they should be given some tax incentives. Because at that time, aviation became the fastest growing sector of the economy. So the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning thought that by giving them some tax incentives, just like they've done to Dangote, for example, or to anybody, a pioneer, that will help them to continue to participate and contribute to the GDP of Nigeria. But that has since been removed. That was in the initial OBC, but now currently there is no tax break or tax holiday for Nigeria Air Limited. They will operate within the same tax laws that everybody is operating. But like you, they are going to operate within a special economic zone that we established, and they will enjoy those taxes like every other person. So they enjoy the same like Air Peace or Ibom or anybody. And remember, Dr. Abati, we have promoted these local airlines beyond anybody had done. 50% of all the airlines today in Nigeria flying were licensed to fly during my tenure under Buhari government. So we have supported them in that direction. And we have also supported them by removing taxes, removing customs duties, and removing VAT on aircraft and spares. That has been unprecedented. Is support for national our airlines in Nigeria, which we did.
Okay, one of the questions Nigerians are asking is that ahead of May 29th, the day of the unveiling, You had promised that 3 aircraft will be on the ground for the purpose of the unveiling, but you ended up providing Nigerians with a chartered aircraft. What happened? The idea of the chartered craft, was that an afterthought?
No, that is not the case, Dr. Abati. We said for the takeover of the airline, 3 aircraft in the name of Nigeria Air with the 5 November registration, which means with the Nigerian registration, will commence the operations once the AOC is ready. But that on that Friday, there will be an aircraft, Nigeria Air aircraft, that will come in to do the unveiling, to showcase what it is as part of their marketing strategy. And the aircraft came in and did that, and they created the necessary hype they wanted to create as their own business. And I want to tell you that, look, now there are 2 things here. I think perhaps people should understand that some people now own Nigeria Air Limited, as against at the time when the government was trying to push the idea. Now they have shareholding, and they decide to do whatever marketing they want to do in their own style, so long as they are within our laws. So the aircraft that they say is an Ethiopian register, yes, it is. And they will not come and keep the airplanes here pending when the AOC and everything is ready before they commence flight. We've seen airlines in Nigeria did so. I give you an example. Recently, we've seen Rano kept aircraft for about 2 or 3 months on the ground, doing nothing, waiting to start operations. And we've also seen an airpiece at the time. He came to us and asked that he wanted us to permit him to be going to America, China, London, everywhere. We all gave him the permit to go. And he brought in 2 777s. He was paying leases of about maybe $250,000 per one. So which is $500,000 he was paying per month for the 2 aircraft. And he kept them for 18 months. And that is $9 million. And didn't go anywhere. And by the time he was ready to start, his landing gear was due, his engine was due. Depending on what it is that was due, if you put together another maybe $10 million. So he was starting that business with minus $19 million. Who does that? These Ethiopian people, they are masters of the game. They have been in the business for 77 years. They also have post-profit during COVID. Last year, they post-profit of $1 billion. They're the only airline with Qatar that post-profit during COVID. So they wouldn't come and keep the aircraft waiting for the AOC to happen before they start flying. But once you say the AOC is ready, the aircraft are ready.
Okay.
To come in with the 5 November registration, which is Nigerian registration,
okay,
and fly.
Okay, these Ethiopian people, to use your phrase, how much have they invested in this Nigeria Air project? Or how much are they expected to invest? And are they also going to be in charge of the maintenance contract? I think Nigerians would like to know.
Well, so who will do the maintenance contract for the airline? We should ask the shareholders. If they agree they want to give it to Ethiopian to do, it's fine for them. It's not our case. If they agree to give it to somebody in Keflavik or somebody in Morocco to do it for them, it's their business. But I know that part of our roadmap here in Nigeria, we have established an MRO, which is coming soon, maintenance repair overhaul facility, which is coming soon, which they can leverage upon. So it's the owners. You cannot tell airpiece you must go to social location to maintain your aircraft. It's their business. So it's the business of the owners. How much have Ethiopian Airlines paid? I have answered the question earlier on, that they will pay equal to 49% of their money. And the total I told you is $200 million, the capitalization. So they will pay 49% of that. And the rest will pay, everybody will pay his own shareholding.
Okay, you've talked about the shareholding. How about the management structure? What percentage in terms of management is reserved for Nigerians, Nigerian investors, and what percentage is reserved for the Ethiopians?
Also, at the time that we were driving the process, before we found the investors, during the OBC, we said, and it must be so, that all the crew, the pilots, the engineers, the cabin crew, will be Nigerians. So long as there is a competent Nigerian licensed to exercise his license on that type of aircraft, it will be a Nigerian. So Nigeria first. That's what we agreed. Who are going to be holding the management of the airline? It is an airline, it is a company. The owners of the company will decide who owns which position that will pay them value for their money. In my opinion, that Nigeria Air Limited, a company known to Nigerian law, will operate within the laws of Nigeria and ensure there is value for money. But what we put in place is that ensure that majority, maybe 95% of the airline must remain Nigerian.
Okay.
And I think they have that agreement as well.
Okay, I want to go back to the first question, where I started from. And I was asking for a justification.
Right.
There are some Nigerians who are saying, look, we have Arike, we have aero contractors that could have been brought together and then we form Nigeria Air. Instead of creating a new thing and bringing Ethiopians into the matter. Could there have been a different approach to the matter?
Well, so, no, I think whoever would have suggested that would have been done a very, very big error and mess. Because at the time that Arik Air was taken over by Amcon, the Amcon exposure in Arik Air is 250 billion Nigerian naira. And Nigerian agencies under aviation were owed about 30 billion by Arik. And plus other people like catering and ground handling and so on. So Arik was indebted to about 300 billion naira. So who will start a business with minus 300 billion naira? That is one. Number two, there would have been litigation by legacy owners. You will not want to start the business and then you go to court. And now we have been vindicated that that is true because now Arik had gone to court and has taken over back his airline. And at the time, all of the aircraft of that Arik had, I think there were about 3 of them or so that were flying. They have engines all over the world. They have aircraft all over the world held because they are owing. So if you start using Arik and Aero put together, you would have started with litigation and we have been vindicated. So it was a wrong idea. But the best idea is to have an airline that is private sector led and driven. 95% private sector and 5% government. So that government will have skin in the game, people would trust us. Because in the past, from 1980 when the sector was liberalized, we had 130 airlines that started. Only 7 of them. Hello?
I'm listening.
Hello?
I'm listening. I'm with you.
130. Oh my God.
Please go ahead. I can hear
There are
you.
130 airlines that started and they've all crumbled. Only about maybe 10 or 15 of them are still alive in Nigeria. If I'm being heard, because I can't hear anybody.
Okay. But
130.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me from the studio in Lagos? No?
They've all gone down the drain. That's the point I'm making, that the 130 from Cabo, Okada, Haraka, Hako, Kwalkwal, Chanchangi, ADC, Bellevue, Fascination, name it. They're all completely gone down the drain.
Okay.
Am I being heard?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, if you can hear me.
Oh my God.
One other question that was raised in the video.
Sorry, doctor, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me, okay. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, the conversation with Senator Hadi Sirika, former Minister of Aviation of Nigeria, will continue. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still Senator Hadi Sirika, former Minister of Aviation of Nigeria, and we've been discussing the Nigeria Air project. Senator Sirika, as we begin to wind down this conversation, one question raised in the video, one of the videos that was shown before we started this conversation, was the question, why the unveiling on May 29, the very last day that the administration that you served was leaving? Why didn't you just leave it for the new administration to come in and continue from wherever the matter had reached? Why
Well, Dr. Ruben,
last
I've
day?
answered that question saying that it was a So I answered that question. I was saying that it was the owners of this Nigeria Air, the consortium with the federal government of 5%, with Mofi and everybody, they decided to do the unveiling as part of their marketing strategy. So it is not a government that was doing the unveiling to start the job. No, not at all. It was them who did, and I was invited and I went there. But Dr. Abati, before we run out of time, there are 2 things fundamental that I want to answer. One of them is that there is allegation that the whole thing was shrouded in secrecy. And that I find mind-boggling and I find disturbing. These airline, we have advertised during the procurement stage in national dailies and The Economist. And there was a business conference, and members of airline operations of Nigeria participated in the business conference. I remember we seeing Air Peace participated in the business conference, and everything was deposited on the website. We had a website dedicated, being regulated by ICRC. And the whole world knew that we were bidding, and everybody bidded, and they even asked for extension of time, some of the bidders, which we gave them 4 weeks. And it was open, and someone won. So why is the secrecy question? And you said at the beginning of this interview that I am synonymous to Nigeria Air, which means that everything that's been done has been said. We held 6 stakeholder conferences, six. In every stakeholder conference, we will discuss Nigeria Air. We will tweak it. We had an outline business case. We presented it to the public. We presented it to the stakeholders. So everybody is in the know. So why is the secret about? And the bidding was done transparently, and it was deposited on the website during the bidding. And don't forget, Ministries of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Attorney General, Aviation, etc., were members of the evaluation team to evaluate. It's not only aviation. And ICRC are the regulators to regulate any PPP and ensure that it's according to the law. And they issued a compliance certificate to say, yes, what you have done is within the law. So why is the secrecy they're talking about?
Well, Senator,
I think it's in their imagination.
You've referred to Air Peace about twice in the course of this conversation. But it's not only Air Peace or SACOL.
Yes.
It's, the airline operators of Nigeria who seem to, agree on their objections to Nigeria Air. What do you think their fears could possibly be?
Well, I think their fears that they think that perhaps the airline will get advantage because government has a stake in it, 5%. They will be given tax-free, which we said it is not the case. Now we know. Or they will be given some other advantage. There is not going to be any advantage given to this airline. And I personally invited every single one of them that, look, this airline is the first time in Nigeria that you have a well-structured airline with a clear business case, not owned by one man, but it's going to be owned by people who are professional, who knows how to run airlines. Don't forget, from the beginning of the liberalization of the sector in 1980, we had Cabo, Okada, Harco, Hakat, Whole Trade, Chanchangi, Kwal, all of them, 130 airlines, all of them down the drain. Because the structure is wrong. There is poor governance. I remember when we were leaving, we did a policy, and I'm sure by now NCA may release the regulation. We did a policy that there must be corporate governance. They must appoint in all airlines at least one director, independent, to be approved by NCA. They nominate, NCA approves. They must also appoint at least one out of the top 4 auditing firms for NCA to approve, to improve the governance, to ensure that they are healthy, these airlines. We have been supporting them all over the place. People, the concern they had of being partial, Nigerians can remember the time I stood up for Air Peace and ensured that they must be going to Dubai.
Okay, Senator.
And they were given Dubai. Are they going now? No. Why? No capacity. No capacity. So, no. Finally, Dr. Abati, I think I agree it is not only Air Peace, but I'm talking about all of them. There are only 5 of them that went to the so-called court. Air Peace, United. In fact, United, when they came in, there was objection to their name because of United Airlines in America. That must change. I say, well, let United in America change their name, but we register our own. And he got the license without knowing me. He came to my house during a meeting when I was ill. They came to see me, AON, and begged me to please stop the Nigeria Air project. And I told them that, why don't you go and buy shares in it? And he told me that, Honourable Minister, I need to appreciate you, that I never knew you, I have never met you in my life, but I went for my license and I got it. And that is the culture we built in aviation. 50% of all airlines today in Nigeria were done under Buhari, under my supervision. And none of them ever had a reason to come and see me as minister. He just go ahead and it's done professionally. Nigeria Air also would not be treated differently from them. 50% of all airlines today in Nigeria were done under my name. So during our tenure, aviation became the fastest growing sector. Our airlines have doubled. Our airports have doubled. Our passenger number have tripled. We were safe and secure. We were efficient. We were just trying to create a roadmap that is intertwined with each other, to create a maintenance center, to provide a leasing company where they can lease money, because now when they go, there's country risk, they lease in dollars. We have now put the ALC here in Nigeria, the leasing company here in Nigeria. They can leverage. We have an MRO here, it's coming up. We have a university to train people with high-level manpower. We did that. We gave them level playing field. We supported them. No VAT, no tax, no custom duty. I was all over supporting them.
Well,
the value jet guy has confirmed that. He's never known me. He has a license.
Senator Sirika, well, before we wrap this up, one more question. The controversy over the firefighting trucks that you were alleged to have bought for about 12 billion naira. Is that true? If it is not 12 billion, how much did the ministry spend on those firefighting trucks, and why the urgency at the last minute?
Well, fire trucks, if you're an aviator, you know that once there is no fire cover, the airport will be shot. It's a very serious safety issue. So the cause of Sosoliso crash and the guys dying, it was wind shear that crashed the aircraft, but the students would have been alive today. But they burnt to ashes because of absence of fire cover. So we ordered 3 years ago for these fire trucks. And yes, they are about 1.2 billion per piece. We ordered for them to be manufactured specifically for Nigeria. It's not off the shelf. And that thing, don't forget, somebody said on social media that he checked and they were selling about 600 million naira. Why 1.2 billion? Okay, you add 1% VAT, you add 5% withholding tax, you add custom duty, you add transportation, you add training, you add spares, you add the markup of the contractor, you add the cost of funds, you add also the exchange rate from 600 million naira, if I even take his figure. But before I close on this, I think I need to respond to my friend who said it was a fraud. Right Honorable Unalim, the former chairman of House Committee on Aviation. What I said to him in private, I will say it now. He asked me, just to give him some comfort, he asked me to please indulge him and give him 5% of the airline. That 5%, what I told him in private is that it belongs to the owners. And I believe they'll still be willing to offer him if you have the money. So it is not me giving it. I didn't get involved. It was bidding process. And I'm very sure that they will have reserved 5% for him and his people according to him. So he should approach them to get his 5% that he needed. But the fire truck, we did it. And in fact, we even gave more. We gave, I think, about 5 more, even after this procurement. And the records are there. And there is Freedom of Information Act. You can go and get the records, apply for the records, and get them.
Okay, Senator, let's just get
and we are very responsible people, accountable to our actions.
Okay, Senator, let's get one thing clear. You are saying that Honorable Nnaji asked for 5%. Is it 5% of Nigeria Air or 5% of the firefighting trucks contract?
No, he asked me exactly. You know, I record all my things anyway. And I have it very clear. He asked me that please, I should give him 5% of Nigeria Air to carry him along with his people. I am saying, and I said to him that time, that look, Honorable, you didn't understand me. This is a bidding process that has taken place. And some people won rather. So I think you should go to those people and ask them the 5%. So I want to reassure him that at some point, even the 5% held by federal government will go to market. So he should get his money ready and buy for him and his people according to him. That's what I'm saying about Nigeria Air.
In other words, Honorable Nnaji and his colleagues in the House of Reps were in the Aviation Committee were asking to be bribed before they could support the Nigeria Air project.
In other words, Honorable, let's be fair. Honorable Ilan Nolim didn't say other members. He said he wants him and his people. His people could be his family, could be members, could be leadership. I didn't know what it means. But him and his people, 5%. I'm saying that he should relax and approach the owners. That's exactly what I told him in camera. You remember, I've been to House of Reps 20 years ago. And 10 years ago, I was senator. I know how the workings is. He called for public hearing. And right after the public hearing, he just turned the paper and read the Riot Act. What is the practice in National Assembly is that after hearing people and the complaint, You now go and sit down as a committee, the clerks will do their job, you now sit down, discuss the issues, raise them, approach the whole House of Reps, and take position of the House plus leadership, and come back and make your findings known. But not immediately after you now just read the Riot Act. It means it's predetermined. To say, okay, arrest Hadi Sirika, we are not part of this. Of course, it's an executive exercise and function. You cannot be part of it. But you have been overseeing the ministry for 4 years. Is it now that you know there is fraud in the airline? We started in 2016, which means you didn't do your work.
Well, on
He
that
should have
note,
been very diligent to ensure that in 4 years he has found out whether there is corruption or no corruption, or there is fraud. On
that note, I would like to thank you very much, Senator Hadi Sirika, former Minister of Aviation of Nigeria, for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show.